How does multimodality connect with people in social interaction?
Well, I'd start with, of course, a person who has interests. The interests in our case are in making meaning and in communication. And the person has choices. She or he can make choices. Choices among the resources which are there to use. Choices in how the resources are to be arranged, in what kinds of ways. And then there are kinds of things. Imagine somebody making a table. And the person has timber there, and the person has tools with which he can do things, and you can kind of, it's a little bit like that. You have resources and you have tools. So for instance, one tool you have is you can change things. And change can be of different kinds. For instance, you can change things from one mode to another. Something which was an image could be turned into a bit of writing or a bit of speech. And something which was a bit of writing could be turned into a gesture or whatever. So two terms which are central really in thinking about this are transformation and transduction. One is about changes in ordering, and the other is changing meaning from one kind of mode to another mode. And in that, of course, we assume behind all of that somebody with an interest. Now, the interest may not be kind of totally evident even to the person who does it, but there is an interest there, and she or he has an interest in designing something which will be fit for the thing that I want to do. So design is very important in all of that. Interest, choice, resources, changing things, transforming them, or changing from one mode to another. These are the kinds of things that maybe are important in how do people use all this stuff.
So if we're looking at this BBC News website,
Yeah.
would we then say that they have made certain choices, for example, in what?
Absolutely, because if you looked at that, if you had looked at that website 10 years ago, what you would find is where this website is modular, it has modules of meaning, it would have been much more linear. There would have been a lot of writing in linear form. Writing would have been more prominent, and the arrangement would have been the kind of arrangement of the traditional book, of lines of writing in sequence. Yeah? So there's a choice. The choice is now to have much more image and make image much more salient. The choice is to go from linearity to modularity. That's the kind of choice which has been made here. And it conforms, I suppose, to the interest of the designers at the BBC, who say, if we want people to look at this at all, we've got to kind of make it interesting. Now, the notion of interest is sort of vague at that particular point, but it means that these people whom we want to look at this website live in a social world which is rich with all kinds of things and images and stuff, and maybe images more than word. So my interest is to produce something which matches the interest of the people who have in mind as visitors to this site. So I think that's probably how that works.
Is all of this planned then?
I would say it is planned. To go back to the example of the Afghan war, the bit of writing and the image of the tank, instead of the image of the tank, of course, you could have any number of other images to signal war in Afghanistan. You wouldn't have a green meadow there. That wouldn't kind of be all that useful for war in Afghanistan because it's desert. You know, we're in the desert, it's hot. And having a soldier walking with a dog in a green meadow probably wouldn't do it. In other words, there's an aptness in the thing that I choose to make my meaning. Yeah? So actually, whether I'm aware of it or not, the choices I make actually conform to my interest in making the meaning that I want here. I want to have something which is harsh, violent, powerful, and whatever else. And I choose the forms which are available. I choose from a range of photographs. Sometimes you've seen photographs of soldiers trudging through poppy fields, for instance. That's less violent than this, less harsh than this particular thing. So the things which I choose are apt for the purposes I have in mind.
Okay.